Hello, well clinicians, and welcome to another Friday question session. Today's question comes from Dr. Badawi. He asks us, what is the torque setting that he should use for his particular brand of files? Now, this is a question that comes up quite a bit, and I think it deserves its own answer. So let's get to it. Okay, so the question that this viewer is asking us really is not what torque setting should be used on his files, but rather, what is the safest way to use his own files? Now, torque setting should be really understood here that we're really not setting the torque on a given handpiece for any given file. The handpieces that you buy and use in your practice come with a given maximum torque, and that is basically the torque at which the handpiece can operate. The torque setting is really actually a function of torque control, and what that means is that inside the handpieces that have torque control, there are sensors that can actually sense the amount of torque that's being applied to a rotary file in the handpiece. And when it reaches a specific threshold that you can set as the torque control setting, then the file will actually either stop or unwind a little bit, rotate in a clockwise direction so it doesn't engage that much, and therefore reduces the torque to that level. However, one thing that should be understood is that no handpiece is able to actually determine the torque at the tip of the file, and the handpiece actually averages out the torque that is being sensed at the handle where it's actually being engaged in the handpiece, and therefore it determines when it reaches a certain critical level, and then the auto reverse will engage. So it's important to understand that first and foremost so that you can realize you're really not setting a torque on a handpiece, you're really controlling a given torque for a given file. Now, manufacturers over the years have really tried to dumb down the process by giving us this torque settings for each given file. Of course, as I mentioned before, this really is an average over the entire length of the file and really doesn't give us any specific information about the tip of the file or any given specific area of the file that is being engaged at any point in time, which is the reason why, even with the torque control, you could still separate files in the canal. So what are we supposed to do? What can we do really to avoid the problem of separation, file separation in the canal? Well, the thing that we have always recommended here at Rebuild Endo has been the use of a single stroke and clean, or SSC motion, which I've done other tutorials on. But what this does is it actually is really the only predictable way that you would use a file to its given capacity, which is to fill the chip space. So I personally, in my office, I never actually engaged the torque control on my handpieces. My torque control is always off. And the reason why is because torque control will give us a sense of safety that is false, that it doesn't really exist, which is why people still separate files even though they're engaging the torque control. And the reason for that is what I explained before, which is you're getting an average reading of the torque on a file inside the canal, whereas the torque can very quickly and very suddenly increase dramatically right at the tip of the file when you're trying to go around a short radius curvature or an area in which two canals join, and you're basically one of the canals ends up taking a very sharp turn. I use, as you know, the EndoSequence and the ESX files, and the recommended torque control setting for those files is anywhere from 1.8 to 2.4. However, as I said again, I always have the torque control off.